And we are recording. Greetings, comrades, and hello, everyone. I'm Quinn866, and welcome back to Amestris Audio. With me today is our special guest slash co-host.
Katashiki Sasaki, hello.
Also known as Katakon Bro, Cameron Douglas, and the many other names. I think you swapped up your names like a million times on these recordings.
Yeah, it'll get so bad to the point it'll just be Kata Kanata, Kata Katana, Kata Kata
Kata
Katana Kana.
insert extension here. Well then, today, and for the record, just because we're called Amestris Audio does not mean we are excluding, just does not mean our talks are exclusive to Full Metal Alchemist. In fact, believe it or not, this Naruto tier image is actually something that appeared in our other recordings, so we decided, why not cover Naruto as well?
Yeah, yeah.
Before we begin, I actually just want to point this out while we're here. It's very funny. I might as well say this to any who don't know. Now, you obviously know already, Cam Man. That's my nickname for him, just for the record, Cam Man. However, Naruto was a series that my brother and sister had watched during the sibling anime tradition of 2005 through 2015. But it was one of the series alongside, ironically, Fullmetal Alchemist that I did not join on them in watching. I mean, I saw Fullmetal Alchemist here and there, mostly '03 and not Brotherhood, till I saw them both side by side when I was doing my reviews. But Naruto was a series I just never really picked up until, honestly, you just encouraged me to try it out. And it's funny because, like, it wasn't even for any, like, special reason that I didn't watch Naruto. It's just that I had other things I wanted to watch, and now that I have seen Naruto, I'm in the middle of finishing up Shippuden. I'm like nearly there. I just finished the Kakashi Anbu arc, which is like in the middle of the fourth Shinobi World War climax. I'm nearing there, but you gotta start somewhere, and where does Naruto start? But Naruto Classics, Land of the Waves arc. Sometimes even called the prologue of the series, when you think about it.
Yeah, and just a real quick, like, perspective on my account as well, that I actually I actually got into Naruto last year, like the very start of 2022, because like I was ill at the time, like very ill, like seriously ill, and I needed stuff to watch. So, and that was one. So I kind of just settled on Naruto for a while.
Yeah, you just pass the
Uh,
time because you might as well, honestly. With how many
yeah,
episodes it has, you would have had plenty of content to watch and pass the time with.
yeah. I think I was just really curious at the time because I was like, oh yeah, Naruto keeps coming up, so I was like, oh, better give it a go. And I
And it's
wasn't
funny because,
entirely. Huh?
no, sorry, you go ahead. I was about to comment, but you can go ahead.
Uh, I'll just briefly say that, well, I wasn't entirely convinced at first, but I do confidently like the series nowadays, I would say.
Same. And it's kind of funny because, like, one of the reasons why I know I said there wasn't really a special reason why I didn't watch Naruto. That's not to say I didn't have any reasons at all. I mean, I heard many of the controversies regarding things like Sakura, power balancing, Kaguya stealing Madara's spotlight. And while I can't say how I feel about the latter of those bunch, honestly, I think a lot of the controversies surrounding Naruto are pretty unjustified. Like, I can still enjoy the series regardless of those things, and honestly, some of them are really not as bad as people make them out to be.
Agreed.
I mean, look at Rising
Um,
of the Shield Hero. I fucking love Rising of the Shield Hero, and that series is surrounded with controversy, whether that be Mine, Season two's production as a whole, the dark elements, source material accuracy. Do I still love Shield Hero? Absolutely, I do. It's my fourth favorite anime of all time. So it just comes to show that just because you hear stuff about a series does not guarantee your experience will be the same as what other people are saying. And honestly, I'm actually kind of impressed that Naruto's first arc, in my opinion, still holds up really well. And it's kind of
yeah,
funny because typically when I look back at first arcs, they're usually first arcs because they need setup, And while sometimes they'll get the job done, like Fairy Tale's Eisenwald arc, or what's another example I can think of that's like good but doesn't do anything too extraordinary?
Yeah,
There's one off the top but tip of my tongue. Like Duelist Kingdom from Yu-Gi-Oh! Like these sort of arcs are first arcs
yeah.
that get the job done. They open the series, establish core things, but they're understandably flawed compared to other arcs. But then there's also first arcs that just do not do it for me. Like Aincrad from SAO. Like I don't like Aincrad. I've made that very
Yeah.
clear. I also think One Piece's first arc sucks. It's it's same problem as Aincrad. It's like 14 episodes or whatever the exact amount of episodes was of setup. And I'm more than anything impressed that Naruto's Land of Waves I still think is enjoyable, both in the grand scheme of the story and even just as an arc by itself.
Hmm.
I mean, sure, sometimes, I mean, like, to be fair, the earlier episodes, namely 1 through 3, are set up. But honestly, it's a lot better to have 3 episodes of setup than 14. And even then, episodes 1 through 3 are not awful. Far from it, in fact.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
I have very strong opinions about episodes 1 through 3. Uh, 3 is a little more questionable because, well, here's the thing. I actually do love 3, like, in terms of, like, my enjoyment, but I can admit it's, like,
The actual
a
content
lot of
within.
things that it just do not land in a natural way. It's one of those episodes where it's like it has a lot of charm, but it is very questionably written, especially with the Sasuke and Sakura thing going on, which it's like there is something there. There's a bit of heart put into that bit, but it just doesn't land.
Especially since,
Um,
this is like, especially for those who went in blind, like me, because, it's funny because, like, going back and watching these episodes when you know all the stuff, it actually isn't too bad. But if you go in blind like me, it's gonna feel just a little bit sudden because it's only episode 3.
yeah, but that being said, I've saw a lot of people say that the Konohamaru episode or chapter is filler, and I strongly disagree with this
I mean,
idea.
Konohamaru is
I
literally the third Hokage's grandson. And Asuma
Yeah,
Saratobi is, his uncle. So like it's kind of like okay, I understand some people saying because Konohamaru still doesn't do that much, but it is integral to the world building.
yeah, and I also like it's a huge part of the themes of the show where it shows that someone for Naruto has issues that well he deals with issues in a different way because
Yeah, they in
Konohamaru has to
Konohamaru and
live up.
Naruto kind of parallel one each other, where they have
Yeah,
big dreams, but there's just a lot of expectations set on them before they can actually even get anywhere close.
yeah, because here's the thing: Konohamaru has to live up to expectations, whereas Naruto he
Naruto's
he
trying to
never.
break expectations.
Well, yeah, but he also never, he never had room to do that in the first place, you know?
True.
So, and I also think it's really a likable characterization for Naruto to be, like, really quick to understand Konohamaru's position, despite him being, like, not as bad. It comes back to, like, not comparing things to, not comparing your problems to another person's. Naruto understands this, and I like it a lot.
And it's really funny because, like, even in the fillers, even Shippuden fillers, I do like how Naruto and Konohamaru are in some smaller, more laid back slice of life scenes. I kind of like it that Konohamaru and Naruto still kind of retain their sort of playful banter with one another, whether that be the sexy harem jutsu or even just them, like doing missions or whatever, like in the other days. I think Naruto fillers are actually really greatly misunderstood. Some of them I'd even argue should be part of the canon, although we're not there yet, obviously. So that'll definitely be a point I make in future recordings and podcasts. But Naruto's fillers are something I really want to talk about deeply one day. One of these days, I might even.
Also,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
just really quick, that I think the feathers have. like extremely underrated world building. Like people say it's unimaginative. I would disagree. I honestly think it's impressive the universe it created.
Like to people, okay, I'm sorry to cut you off here, but to anyone who says Naruto's fillers don't do any world building or don't add that much to the story, I would like to point them towards Three Tails Appearance, Six Tails Unleashed, 12 Guardian Ninja, and the Kakashi Anbu arc. And if they
Mhm.
watch those and still tell me they don't think they add anything to the world, then they're lying. Like something like Paradise Life on a Boat. Yeah, that doesn't really add that much. Peddler's Escort? Not that much either. Even Mizuki Tracking, funnily enough, because Mizuki is the villain in episode 1, doesn't really add that much to Mizuki, but I'm willing to accept those arcs for what they are, since ultimately they're not meant to be taken overly serious anyways. And
Mhm.
really, I think that's kind of the joy of Naruto fillers is that you kind of get sort of a bit of a trail mix. You'll get some interesting bits, you get some bits that aren't as good. It's kind of the randomness factor that sort of makes me like it. You don't have to worry about the main story.
You know,
Fillers are usually pretty self-contained as well, which doesn't even bother the main story that much.
I've always seen the part one feathers as kind of like theme park rides, and then you have Shippudens, which are more, meaty to the bone kind of
Yeah, because
thing. You
Naruto's
get more.
part one Naruto fillers are usually did not extend beyond 7 or so episodes. I think the longest one was Star Guard, which was like 7 episodes, whereas the others range between 2 to sometimes 6 episodes. So I actually, it's really funny now that you mention part one fillers because Naruto in Land of Waves we're told about ninja missions and all that, and Naruto's like, I want to go on an A rank mission, and that's when Land of Wave kicks off. But the funny thing is, we didn't really get to see what like more mundane ninja missions were like. And I think the part one fillers actually do a good job of showing us what some of the more just everyday ninja missions would be like. In fact, most of the part one fillers are called mission at the end. Star Guard mission. What else is there? There was like Peddler's Escort mission, Mizuki Tracking mission, Pikachu
Yeah,
Search mission. The fillers of part one, more than anything, I feel did a good job at showing what a ninja's everyday mission routine would be like. Now, are the missions just random missions? No, they do actually have some
yeah,
connection to what's going on. I mean, look at Land of Rice Fields and Sungakari Support. Those had importance. And while others were
definitely.
definitely sidetracky, like Land of Tea,
Mhm.
screw that one. That's actually one of the worst
Yeah,
fillers. And another
agreed.
filler I didn't like, Peddler's Escort. Those two definitely don't really add anything to the search for Sasuke, Orochimaru, or anything, but I'm willing to take them for what they are.
Yeah. Um, what was I gonna say? You see part one. What was I gonna say? Like, you know how Tsunade, like she becomes like the Hokage and stuff.
Yeah.
I think the fillers took the perfect opportunity to like, just like, all right, well, Tsunade's, Tsunade, at least by that point, because I mean,
Yeah.
I think
Because
they were
obviously Tsunade
introduced
hasn't been
later
introduced
on.
in Land of Waves.
Oh yeah, but like, it just it's like when she does get like involved, because I actually do think she's a pretty good Hokage overall. It's just that like
Hey, hey, comparing to Donzo, anyone's a better Hokage.
because it's like and I do think like the fathers they handle the whole go out, go on a mission,
And
do
some of them even
this
use characters
thing.
we didn't get to see too much,
Yeah,
like Hinata, Rock Lee,
yeah,
etc. So they do good at that.
yeah, yeah. Like the side cast just generally just get more time to shine on those.
Yeah. I wish we got more of
Um,
Tenten though, but that's basically
yeah.
something all the fan base knows. The most we got of
Although,
her was in past arc Locus of Konoha and the Curry of Life filler.
yeah, the Korea life arc was pretty nice for her. Didn't she also appear in the Warrior one?
Cursed Warrior. Oh yeah, she did. You're right.
Wasn't
Oh no, you're right.
sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so Tenten has had screen time, although obviously it's not been as dedicated to other characters. It's a shame too, because Tenten definitely has potential for interesting episodes. And the one
That's the
episode she
frustrating thing. Sorry.
No, go ahead, you go ahead.
That's the frustrating thing because I'm like, there is so much potential to 1010, but like you don't really tend to see any of it.
And
Like,
it's funny because Past Arc Locus of Konoha gives her an episode, and it was actually pretty good, if I'm being honest. So I don't know
like
why we
here's the
couldn't have
thing.
more of that. I mean, I know
Here's the
characters like
funny thing.
Neji and Rock Lee have gotten their own self-contained episodes, and it took up until after Pain Arc during Past Arc Locus of Konoha for us to get a dedicated 1010 episode. I mean, I'm glad we got anything at
Like
all, but still.
the problem with 1010 combat wise is that she doesn't, even though yes her abilities are awesome, you don't like the abilities are make out to be weaker than they actually are. It's almost like reverse plot armor in a way.
But it's like it's funny because like they've shown that like ninja weaponry has made like is a perfectly viable option. Obviously, like ninja weaponry is not going to work against someone like Madara or Kaguya. But I mean, like, look, like remember Land of Tea? How there was this stupid villain there who had a fucking lightsaber of all things. Like, yeah, it's a lightning sword, a chakra infused weaponry, which is not something completely unheard of. And I mean, Sasuke, when he fought Itachi, he just pulled a ton of freaking shurikens out of those tattoo marks on his arms. So, like, Tenten does have the potential to be part of, like, you know, bigger fights and whatnot. Obviously, nothing to the extent of, like, Naruto, Sasuke, and all the other characters who have a ton of
Like
ninjutsu, but still.
what I want to see is 1010 actually like fight like strong opponent. You know what I
And
mean?
it's
Like
funny because,
and
like,
like
the Fourth Shinobi World War almost kind of did that with her fighting
yeah,
Kakuzu.
yeah.
Almost, I
That
say.
that part where she like
She takes the
blows,
fan used by the Silver and
yeah,
Gold
yeah,
brothers and
yeah.
manages
That's
to use
how.
it. That was actually pretty sick.
Look, it might not seem like much, but for her character, it was.
And then afterwards she's like, no, but I want the fan. And they're like trying to like examine it. And she's like,
Yeah, that was funny.
that was funny. Okay, yeah, but we gotta get back to Land of Waves because we're getting massively sidetracked
Right.
here.
So
All right,
okay,
so
well,
let's talk
I
about
don't
actual Land of Waves content now.
here. Hold on. Episode one. I have to talk about episode one as well.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Well, like episode one, I wouldn't. Okay, I will say at first I was like, because I'm like this way with some animes where it's like
You're kind of
even
skeptical
if the
going in.
first even if the first episode is phenomenal, I might not realize it at first because
You're
I'm
just
not
getting
used
into
to
it.
it. Yeah, 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 yeah. So it's like at first I thought it was like too fast, but then here's the thing: I rewatched it, and then I rewatched it, and then I started realizing that I was like, nah, I just don't think I was in the mood, man.
Well, not only
I
that, but
just
like
don't think
honestly,
I was in
something I
the
think a
mood.
lot of people take for granted in the first episode is that, and obviously now this is something a lot of people will obviously take for granted is that the first episode actually does connect a lot of things, future events really well, whether that be the tailed beast, the attack on the village, the fourth Hokage. Now, obviously on a first watch through, nobody is gonna know these events will all connect, and even events in Shippuden will connect back to it.
Yeah,
But that's kind of what makes it a bit more impressive on rewatches
yeah,
and in retrospect when you realize, yeah, you know, these events do all connect right back together. And and this is actually a very big core theme of Naruto is the distribution of information. This is something that is like one of the most like biggest themes of Naruto is information distribution and how characters slash people take information at the time. I mean, look at Sasuke. Look at Sasuke. He thought for his whole life Itachi was this big mass murderer because of the information that was given to him at the time. But then when Toby reveals to him that Itachi was not this big bad mass murderer, Sasuke's entire perception changes because of newly distributed information.
mm,
So yeah, it's kind of like the first episode. It seems straightforward and all that, but it actually does connect back to multiple things, which is actually kind of impressive because it creates ludonarrative synchronicity. You almost feel what the characters feel like, oh man, there's way more to this now.
Oh yeah, the recontextualization in the Kushina arc was crazy.
And honestly, and what's funny is that, like, some people could call it a retcon or changing the story. Honestly, I don't think it is. Like, yes, does it add things to the story? Sure. But it doesn't necessarily contradict or rewrite
It's
said scenes
like
in the first place.
it's like 100% believable. Like I could get behind
Yeah, like
basically
it makes
everything.
sense. They weren't. It's not information that was like not said. It was information that was intentionally left out, so that when it would be brought
Yeah,
back up again, more and more pieces of the story would come together, and we as the audience would be in a similar position as the characters. That creates good investment. And funnily enough, even later on in this arc, this sort of theme of information distribution is explored again with the villains and obviously, and it's even funny because even Kakashi's exercise with the bells, like literally, so much of this all comes back into play. The whole yes, those who
yeah,
break the rules are scum, but those who abandon their friends are also even bigger scum. Like that, and again. This is something we'll learn about Obito and Kakashi's bond with the fourth Hokage because those words, the those who would abandon friends are bigger scum, came from Obito. And Kakashi is using that same exercise during his training period with Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura.
yeah.
I also like it how they actually revisit the bell test in a few ways, either for fan service or for the beginning of Shippuden. It's actually really nice now that I think about it. It's so simple, just getting two bells, having to teach the, teamwork. It actually is a pretty clever exercise, and Kakashi is absolutely based. Who's a Chad?
Yes.
Honestly,
My
he's probably the coolest
second,
character in this arc.
my Kakashi's my second favorite character in the show.
Who's your
Believe it or not,
first?
Obito.
Oh, actually, you know what? Yeah, that does make sense now that I think about it. As for who my favorite character is, well, I'll have to reveal that one a little bit later. But hey, always incentive to watch more of these Amestris audio podcasts. You get to know more about the series. You get to know more about our thoughts of the series.
So yeah, so like okay, so just finishing up on that episode one, like I wouldn't change anything about that introduction episode. I think it did everything it needed to. And like Naruto's characterization, like you can easily take that for granted because I noticed people have definitely done that, where it's like,
It's like, oh,
they've kind of
Naruto was a
reduced
brat
him.
and all that. At the same time, though,
Yeah,
you
it's
kind of
like
don't blame him for being that way. I mean, Naruto is much younger, much more rowdy than he was in later series. And honestly, more than anything, I actually appreciate that because when we see Naruto in episode one, as opposed to like comparing episode one of Naruto Classic to episode one of Naruto Shippuden, Naruto, you just see him grow. And that's a
yeah,
really special feeling to be able to experience. Like, yeah, I
like
have been with this character. Yeah, I have been following this story. Yeah, Naruto is a better slash different person by now.
like and even in part one, you have to understand that he does grow as a character. Like
He
he's
does. As early
yeah,
as hell, even as early as Land of Waves, he grows. And really, that's a testament to the amount of good writing this series has. Now, is everything in this series well written? No, but I can appreciate the show of good faith early on.
yeah, and like just like I think it's important to let a character cook because I'm not expecting them to be like, oh yeah, well yeah, they need to be like goody two shoes at the start. Like they have to be like, I have to just
You
get
have to
on
be
with them. Like
Tanjiro. I'm kidding. I'm teasing. Tanjiro's a well-written character, but they certainly made him a little, almost just a little too good at the start for me.
yeah, I would agree. But
I mean, no, Tanjiro's still a great character, but I feel like they could have introduced more flaws to him beyond just, oh, I can't use breathing techniques until so and so. I feel like there should have been a little bit more to it than that. But Demon Slayer is an entirely different topic altogether.
don't get me wrong, I like Tanjiro, of course. But
And actually, speaking of
what
which,
was
you
I gonna
said let him cook. because since we've talked about Naruto and Kakashi, what about Sakura and Sasuke? I mean, obviously, like, with them being the
Okay.
other focus characters of this arc, might as well ask you about how you feel about them.
Okay, Sasuke's actually grown on me. I didn't used to care for Sasuke, especially in part one. I actually used to find him lame in part one, but now, like, see when I call back now, I'm like, I can see that he actually is more expressive than I gave him credit for. I can see that there's a lot of, like
There's a lot
when
of subtleties with him.
like his dark story, his darker side, like yeah, sure, it seems like an edgy lame old kid, but at the same time, he's he's kind of like it makes too much sense at the same time, though. So
And
I'm
it's
not
actually
someone
really
that
funny
can
because
blame
that you mentioned this about part one Sasuke. I do actually prefer part one Sasuke by a hair, for a couple reasons. But yeah, it's like, oh my god, there's a plane outside. Please don't mess up the audio plane. Oh my gosh.
to be
The
honest,
one
my opinion
disadvantage
of
of living near an
Sasuke.
airport.
To be honest, my opinion of Sasuke is like the exact same at this point in part one to Shippuden.
It's like it's funny because like oh my god, it's like I know in the past, not on any specific recordings that I can recall of, but in my casual conversations with you, I remember saying Sasuke has a really absurd amount of plot armor. Honestly, though, I may have taken that a bit for granted because part one Sasuke, he gets his ass kicked a lot.
Yeah, yeah, I
I mean,
know.
even as early as Land of Waves, he gets impaled by a ton of Haku's needles in the Chunin exams. He, gets like his chakra sucked out by Yoroi or whatever his name was.
I've not
Orochimaru
forgotten
cursed him.
about
He got one upped by Naruto and Konoha Crush when fighting
the
Gaara when he was totally terrified. Sasuke retrieval, like honestly, I know I say Sasuke has an absurd amount of plot armor, although there are times where he gets his ass kicked, and a lot of the times it's kind of deserved. I
there
mean,
was a lot of times in the I think there was at least 5 times in Forest of Death where he got his handed to him.
like it's funny because it's actually kind of poetic. Sasuke was a lot weaker in Naruto
Yeah.
Classic, but in Shippuden, he trivializes a lot of fights. That's not to say he doesn't come out totally unscathed. Even in
Mhm.
fights he does a bit better in, like say when he fought Deidara. Like obviously Sasuke absolutely outplayed Deidara, but take the times when Sasuke fought Killer Bee or Itachi, he did not come out totally unscathed. And it's sort of funny because I actually think, despite Sasuke clearly having plot armor, he's got some of the best fights in the series. I don't think anyone can disagree with me on that. Some of Sasuke's
I
fights are great.
I honestly see most of my favorite fights in the series like all come from Sasuke. It's sad.
Yeah, it's like, Sasuke versus Orochi. I guess you consider, like, okay, do we count team fights, though? Do we count team fights?
I actually removed a lot of team fights from my
Yeah, I was gonna
list
say,
because
because,
it was
like,
just like
Naruto and
come
Sasuke
on.
versus Haku, or, like, Sasuke and Naruto versus Gaara, I feel like we shouldn't
Here's the
count
thing.
those because Naruto contributes equally as much as Sasuke in those. Just something I figured I'd point out.
Here's the thing. Let's just say a fight because something that I've realized is that you can have a fight that's not really a fight because like in episode one, um, I had to tier that differently because I was like, you know, the clone fight versus not like
Like,
Naruto
Naruto's
versus
clones
that
take off
guy.
Mizuki off screen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like
Most of the
here's the thing:
fight was just the chase when you get down to it.
fights like that, or many of the team fights, which are just kind of fodder-ish in a way. It's like I have to like just not treat them as fights, but rather a great part of the experience.
Yeah, I mean,
And the
there can be action scenes that aren't necessarily fights. It's kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
funny. I
yeah,
think that's a
because
pretty
it's like
common misconception that action equals fights. They don't always equal fights. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
action
yeah.
scenes can be
It's like
chases. They can be, moments of characters getting
it,
completely lopsided. There can be horror scenes. Action is not just limited to
it's
fights.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like an action scene. Like it's it's kind of like connective flow into the next thing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And that would lead to more contextualization, plot. etc. Like I think just having those, it's like it's here's the thing, it's just very hard to tier those as fights. You
Especially when
have
you have competition with like, because Naruto has so many great fights. So obviously,
mm,
putting them against, say, something like Sasuke versus Killer B or Naruto versus Sasuke at the Valley of the End, obviously it's not going to reach
well,
those heights.
some okay. Here's what I would say: if it's Sakura and Chio versus Sasori, yeah, that's a fight because you can actually like identify things.
And it's
But
multi-phased as well.
But if it's say in the Forest of Death, right, like every single member of the team versus freaking Orochimaru, I'm like, well, no, because it's kind of just
You kind of
one
got to
big arc.
generalize that into one net, sorta.
Yeah, it's like you would almost have to like narrow that down to literally just like Konoha versus Orochimaru. So I would rather just not tier that as a fight at all.
Well, anyways. Okay,
You
so
get
yeah,
what
we
I'm
got
saying, though,
Sasuke covered.
right?
How about Sakura, the
Clint,
obviously most
Clint,
divisive character in
Clint,
the whole wide series?
Clint, you don't understand what I was saying though, right? Like with the I'd rather not do it as a fight
Well, yeah,
since
yeah. I
it's
mean,
like
I understood. I just don't really have anything
grand.
to comment on about it because we haven't exactly reached there yet. And also, we keep getting sidetracked from Land of Waves. This recording is already double than what I expected.
It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's part of the fun of
just
it. Chaos is not fun if
roll
you can
over.
predict it.
Yeah. Well, what was I gonna say? So, what were you gonna say?
Oh yeah, I was asking since I asked you about Sasuke, and well, we've covered Naruto, Sasuke, Kakashi. Now we have to cover everybody's divisive girl, Sakura.
Oh yeah, I was gonna talk about her actually. Okay, Sakura. Uh, in Land of Waves. Okay, Land of Waves is annoying. It has a very annoying issue with Sakura that I'll get into. Okay, here's the thing. The contextualization, and this is actually an anime problem, because the anime decided to, for some reason, have Sakura throw Naruto off a bridge at the end, which no, no, like the whole point is she's supposed to, like the whole point of the arc is that they're supposed to like
Be a little closer by the end of it.
yeah, literally, and they kind of are in a way, but the anime removes that context for some reason and just
And it's
goes like,
weird because like it's like I understand them wanting to inject humor, but you don't need to have Sakura be the source of slapstick and have Naruto literally break a bone for the sake of it. It's really cheap.
I'm also not that big a fan of the throw off bridge trope, to be honest. I mean, I think it maybe can work well, but I just haven't seen many examples.
It's like in some like this is the thing. This is the thing. Naruto isn't necessarily meant to be a comedy centric series. That's not to say there aren't jokes and gags in Naruto, and some of them actually can be decently funny. But I don't think anyone really watches Naruto for the humor. So laying humor on thick like that
Yeah,
can really come off as contrived and it just kind of contradict with the general theme of the show. Naruto is first and foremost an action shonen with ninjas, and slapping in some humor doesn't seem too outrageous, but putting in too much can kind of take away from the feeling of the moment, especially when, them walking, back home on the bridge and all that, it's supposed to show that Team 7 has all become a little closer after the mission, and Sakura just chucking Naruto off the bridge is a real big clash in tone to the actual heartfelt emotion at the end of the arc.
yeah. It's like I literally thought they were like you know what's funny? When I got to the end, it was like, come on, come on, this actually feels like a wholesome ending. And then the bridge scene came, and then I was like, no.
And it's funny because like I don't even necessarily hate Sakura, but I do particularly dislike it when series do this sort of thing where like it seems like they have their characters going somewhere and then a single scene can make me doubt and make it feel like they're regressing. In fact, actually, Familiar of Zero kind of did that with Louise, where it felt like her and Saito were getting a little bit closer, but then some sort of gag would happen, causing Louise to whip Saito over again, and it just made progression of the character not feel as natural as it could have been. Sakura is nowhere near as outrageous of an example, and Sakura does actually really improve as the series goes on, though it's
especially
pretty
in Shippuden.
undeniable she had a rough start.
Yeah, like I do definitely think she's better in Shippuden. Like even in the anime, like she's definitely like got more to offer there.
And it's really funny because
Um,
my least favorite arc of the whole series, Tenchi Bridge, Sakura was actually pretty good there. She retained the same level of character in Kazekage Rescue where she really came through. And I was kind of surprised that as much as I hate Tenchi Bridge, Sakura in that arc was totally fine. So,
yeah,
yeah, it kind of baffles me. Also, I can't be the only one who misses when Sakura had long hair. I can't be the only one who misses that.
I do actually. I also miss when she had
It's like other
one.
characters go through design changes, Sakura too, but I kind of wish she like grew out her hair long again, or at the very least we saw her hair in different styles. I don't know, something I kind of wanted.
To be honest, I'm not like the biggest fan of the some of the Shippuden redesigns. Because like here's the thing. I get that simple is the point, but when I look at Naruto there, I'm just like, huh, he
It's like
does
it's
look
way
mature.
too iconic to change sometimes. That and Naruto character designs are all over the place. I mean, like literally. Remember when during the Pain arc, Naruto showed up with the Sage gear with the scroll on his back? That is a awesome design. And do they use it
Yeah,
outside of the Pain fight? No. Like why? Why would they not have that be his design going forward? I don't get that.
but yeah, just like I get again, I get that simple is the point, and that's fine. It's just that I'm like when I look at it, I'm just kind of like, you could have at least added more stuff to it. I don't know.
Yeah. Hell, Rock
Yeah,
Lee
but
looks basically the same in part one as he does in part two, if I'm being honest.
yeah.
I mean,
All right,
obviously for the
so
adult characters like Kakashi, Might Guy, Tsunade, them looking the same, that makes sense. But like the other
yeah,
characters, I mean, hell, even like Hinata and Shino, Kiba Nakamaru, they got tangible design changes that were different enough, but still retained a similar feeling of their character. Rock Lee, on the other hand, he just looks too much like his part one days, except a little taller.
yeah, I can see that.
Well,
Oh, so let's get to our main course meal here.
yeah, the
Landa Blade.
villains, Haku and
Uh,
Zabuza, because really they do take up a majority of this arc.
okay, so Zabuza and Haku are. I don't think. I don't think many people will disagree when I say this is the, this is the best thing about the arc is literally
Honestly,
these
like
two
I'm
characters.
actually really impressed by how Haku and Zabuza make more of an impression on me than Orochimaru. Literally
Literally,
because, like, and it's so funny. Like, I would have been totally okay if Naruto Classics arcs had like villains who just lasted over the season, like Haku and Zabuza. But no, and Chunin exams, Orochimaru. Search for Tsunade, Orochimaru. Sasuke retrieval, Orochimaru. Like I really would have liked them to have more like seasonal villains like Haku and Zabuza because they make more of an impression, and by the end of the arc, knowing they're not coming back, there's something more impactful about it.
yeah,
That and the actual backstory between Haku and Zabuza is actually really interesting. I mean, Zabuza comes off at first like a very cutthroat mercenary. He's so laser focused and no nonsense. He seems really gruff. The fact that he's like, Kakashi, you're in my bingo book. And you have Haku, who's just this really calm and serene person who honestly doesn't even seem that evil. Haku doesn't even seem that evil, but because his loyalties lay with Zabuza, he's on the opposite side of the battle. And even during the fight with Naruto and Sasuke, Haku does have a brief heart to heart with Naruto that actually really sticks out to me because Naruto understands that isolation and being lonely does this sort of thing to people.
Yeah, I like that it's not, like, in your face about it, because like you see it, like it's like you're seeing the information without being like
Without it being
shown it.
spoon fed to you.
Yeah, like outright shown it. Like you just see the impacts of, like, it really is. It's like you're seeing the impact of it without actually seeing the way that
Like,
they
like
are
it is
from like a
so
other.
beautifully written. I cannot believe I'm saying this, but like when Haku is telling his backstory to Naruto, Naruto doesn't even need to say that much. He obviously comments on it, but like just Naruto's facial expression, his body language, as Haku is telling him, that my father tried to kill me and all that. Like you can just see in Naruto's face. He's like, oh my god, this guy is just like me, and it's really interesting. And part of me kind of wishes that Haku and Zabuza may have lived, or at the very least, they were around just a little bit longer. Because like, it's so weird. Because like they tried to do this with Sai, who had a lot in common with Haku, but Sai obviously does not do that much, and he comes in Tenchi Bridge, so fuck. But like, still, and the fact that Zabuza, like, it's so funny. Like, I think Zabuza and Haku are a really iconic duo. And while many people probably will forget about them the more the series goes on and other villains steal the spotlight, whether that be the Akatsuki, Orochimaru, Madara, Tobi slash Obito, Kaguya, etc., there's just something about Haku and Zabuza that will remain pretty timeless in my eyes. Especially since, honestly, both of them were not as evil as both Naruto and the crew perceived, but even we as the viewers see that, these two, maybe they weren't as evil as they thought because of the information distributed to us at the time versus the information we got as the arc went on. I mean, when you first see Zabuza, he's just attacking Kakashi out of nowhere, like, Kakashi, the copy ninja, you're in my bingo book. It's like, it's like you see this guy and you're like, yeah, he's clearly a villain. But then you see his dynamic with Haku and how Haku actually wants to protect Zabuza. And Zabuza's revenge against the Mist Village actually does kind of make sense when you get more details later in Shippuden. And when Zabuza sees Haku die and that Gato was gonna betray him anyways, you can just see just the emotion that Zabuza had been hiding under his mask this whole time finally show. And when Zabuza said Naruto's words hit harder than any weapon, you can just see Zabuza sees this is it. He's gonna die, and he's gonna make the most of it. So Zabuza actually choosing to kill Gato and let Naruto, Kakashi, Sakura, Sasuke live, and the fact they even honor his last request and let him sit by Haku as he dies, there's something kind of moving about that.
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah, like,
never thought they'd get me to care about two villains. One of them, like, it's funny because you think they would give all the sympathy and humanizing to Haku, but I'd even argue they may have done more so for Zabuza. Like, there's just something really interesting about making villains, more humanized. And this is before the Naruto talk no jutsu was memed about. And honestly, for the first chronological example of the talk no jutsu, I think it was handled really well, actually. Naruto calling
oh,
out
honestly,
Zabuza and saying, you're just gonna dismiss your friend's death like that, and Zabuza actually choosing to acknowledge it. There's something that I really do genuinely believe about that.
I'll go all out later on about this, especially for one of the upcoming things on your watch through. Um, but I actually think Talk No Jutsu is a very, very slept on aspect of the series,
And it's funny
even
because, like,
outside of
Naruto, like, everyone, I seriously, you're right, it's very slept on. I hear everyone say, oh, Naruto talks out nearly every one of their evil deeds. No, he doesn't. He didn't for
Yeah, I wouldn't say
Orochimaru.
that.
He didn't for Kakuzu. He didn't for Kisame.
Mm,
He honestly only did it for people who had a chance of being saved.
yeah,
And it also makes those times when Naruto doesn't try and talk people out of it more interesting because both you see and Naruto sees words won't solve the situation. I mean, like I said, with Orochimaru, Kakazu, Kisame, many other villains, like, yeah, some of the most important villains or the most screen-worthy villains were given the Talk No Jutsu treatment, but when there wasn't a Talk No Jutsu treatment, it kind of stood out to me a bit more because I'm like, yeah, Naruto sees that this person is not gonna back down, and it makes the fight feel a bit more intense as a result.
Yeah. Also, Zabuza's is probably one of my favorite ones. Just because, well, it's like it's like literally like there is so little dialogue, like so little dialogue,
Yeah,
but
and that's
every
another thing.
little
They didn't even need to have a massive speech or tons of back and forth. They give you all the information you need to know while also giving you little bits more as it goes on. And that's the thing. Like, they let the action do the talking for them.
yeah, it makes for a very like just a phenomenal like atmosphere because it's like you can feel like this is why I like that it's like when it's paced in a way where I'm like, you know, I just I don't think anything's wasted, where I can properly feel the emotion. And it's not like that stretched out. It's like the content is generally well utilized. Like they thought about what would matter in the moment.
And it's funny, since
Um,
you mentioned pacing, I think Land of Waves is paced really well, surprisingly. Like, it's 20
yeah,
episodes in length, which is just right for an opener. The only real pacing problems were at the early bits, but even then, that's understandable.
uh,
And the rest of the arc
for
manages to
me,
retain a pretty good momentum of things.
for me, the pacing actually suffers in the middle the most. Because okay, I did notice there was like I think it was around the time of the water fight. There were some angles where it was like, I was kind of just thinking to myself, I kind of do want to get on to the next, but it still landed pretty great. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
It
it's like,
just
and especially like, I'm
um,
saying this more as because of it being a first arc. Because usually, first arcs, pacing of first arcs is typically not like
mm,
spectacular. But Land of Waves
sure.
pacing is actually pretty solid in its own right. I mean, compare it to like Fairy Tail's Eisenwald arc, Yu-Gi-Oh's
Oh
Duelist
yeah,
Kingdom, or God forbid, Aincrad or Dark Kingdom. The pacing there just did not land. It was actually kind of
oh yeah,
refreshing that Land of Waves pacing felt pretty balanced. Not
yeah. I
perfect,
mean,
but I was kind of impressed that it didn't suffer from traditional pacing problems I had seen in other series during their early hours.
there's only so much that can go wrong when you have like 20 episodes
Which is
and
just right. I think it was just the right
yeah.
amount of time to squeeze in a meaningful story
In
that both,
fact,
yeah, it's like, I feel like
I
20
think it was
episodes is just right.
19. I think it was 19 actually, if I remember correctly as
Close
well.
enough, close enough.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I'm just saying, like, even that little bit off kind of matters when you consider that, even one episode, it's like it will take up your time.
True.
So, what was I going to say? The biggest problem, okay, the biggest, and I do have anime problems with Land of Waves. Like, I do think there are issues generally.
I
One
got my
thing,
share of gripes as well, but I'll let you go ahead and say yours
the
first.
low point, the low point of the arc to me, and I'll say this: no, it's not episode 3. It's that freaking recap, and I believe it's episode 13. That takes up like the first half of the second half of the
Oh
episode
yeah,
is
you're right.
amazing,
I do remember that. There was
but
a
the
recap
first
briefing.
half, yeah, I could have done
Ooh.
without that.
Oh, I'm not gonna lie with you, bro. I genuinely forgot about that shit. Oh damn!
Yeah,
Man. See, this is why I need to go back and rewatch a few things because I didn't put that in my notes. Damn it!
it's understandable if you forgot about it.
I
It
mean, I
really
mean, at
is.
least it doesn't last the whole episode like a certain
Yeah,
part of the Shunin exams. But still, a recap is a recap. Can't sugarcoat it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. All freaking. There are so many recaps in the series that just they're a slog to get through. Like,
And it's funny
uh,
too because like I have convinced myself to watch every single episode of Naruto, including fillers. And okay, while I am not that like honestly, while I'm enjoying the Fourth Shinobi World War, a few of these recaps are not doing it for me. They never would have, but like what's a good example I can think of? Like, I'm
you
okay with
know,
filler episodes that are filler
um,
episodes. Even the bad ones, like
yeah,
the Mother's Force or whatever with the mothers during the Fourth Shinobi World War, or the stupid Ninja Ostrich or whatever other bad filler episodes. At least those are like new content. Maybe not good content, but it's not just rehashing. But then we get to those recap episodes, which are clip shows, or then, like, God forbid, trying to promote the Road to Ninja movie. It's like, just do that not in the TV series, please.
you know, the worst recap to me is actually in Kage Summit. It's actually in Kage Summit because it clogged up my favorite fight.
Yeah, didn't it come like during Sasuke versus Danzo or something?
Literally in that fight, it's like freaking recap. Let's see Naruto's perspective on everything. Let's see Sakura's perspective on everything. Let's see
What
Sasuke.
wasn't it like? Wasn't I thought it was later during the arc where they like retold the events of part one or something? Like I thought it was during like where Sasuke and
Yeah, yeah,
it was right
yeah.
around
You're
there.
right.
It was after the Danzo fight because that comes after the Danzo fight.
Well,
I mean, it's
you
close
know,
enough, but still.
it's just that when it's in the same location and everything, it's like it feels like it's in the fight. It's like,
Yeah, it feels like, and it's sad too because like Naruto has shown it can do recaps and not have them clog up a whole episode. You want to know, ironically, what I think the best recap in the series is?
what was it?
It's in the Fourth Shinobi World War climax, where we see Kurama,
Oh,
the Nine Tails, and we see from his perspective during several events of
yeah,
part one and part two why he's slowly letting out chakra. Not only does that recap actually come during a good point when Naruto's inside of the Four Tails talking to him or whatever, but also it does give us new information and it doesn't last the whole episode. So that's actually a recap I am willing to justify since it does provide new information and it fits within the timing. But having us
yeah,
retell the events of part one, including reanimating Chunin exams and parts of Sasuke retrieval in the middle of the Danzo versus Sasuke and Sasuke and Naruto meeting during Five Kage Summit, like, no, like, there was virtually no point in doing that. In fact, God, I'm gonna get murdered for saying this. In Sasuke retrieval during the flashback before Naruto and Sasuke fight the valley at the end, only one of those flashbacks actually provided new meaningful details, where the other two we had already seen. And honestly, it actually does kind of hurt the Naruto versus Sasuke fight at Sasuke retrieval. As awesome as the fight is, and it kind of does save it, I'm not gonna lie, those flashbacks did hold it back a little bit for me.
yeah. I also think it was like, what was I gonna say? I actually think it was what was I gonna say? I actually think it was necessary to give you more time to Kurama in the war because
Like, we didn't even know his
well,
name until the war.
it was just
And honestly, the Nine
because
Tails itself have been shrouded in a lot of mystery, so this came at a good time.
like I think if if they just adapted it in a way where it was like, oh yeah, let's just adapt the Kurama stuff briefly, it would have came across as if it wasn't as much of an act as say Capital or the stuff after was.
Uh-huh.
Whereas unless it's treated as a lot more important, since you get a lot more time with Kurama in the anime, which I think is like I can see why people would be like, I'm gonna go to the next thing. But actually, I think it's pretty nice to just have that Kurama vibe there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, because the Nine Tails is omnipresent throughout the whole series, and any more screen
Mm.
time given to him would actually really flesh out slash enhance what the source material may have not touched up on.
Also, like I will say, and to be fair, this is somewhat Land O'Waves related. Uh, is Kurama is a very like I know you're not at the end yet, but he's a very well written character.
Honestly, I
Very,
think
very
I think the tailed beasts themselves are just a really cool addition to the series. Although I will admit, something I really wish that was stated earlier in the series was the existence of the tailed beasts at all. Because it's funny because we know the Nine Tails is a
yeah.
thing, but like take when Gaara's One Tails reveals itself during Konoha Crush. I don't know, maybe I'm misremembering, but I don't recall anyone within Part One saying, oh, this is the One Tails or whatever. They just called it a sand spirit. Same thing with Naruto's
Yeah.
Nine Tails. They called it a spirit. I don't know why they never addressed them as the tailed beasts until later on. Now,
Mm.
maybe that's because they wanted to hide the information from Naruto because that's what the Akatsuki were after, and maybe if he knew too much, he'd let too much on. That would make sense, I guess, but I wish they actually like had acknowledged like the tail beasts were tail beasts and not just chakra spirits until Shippuden. I feel like that's a little bit of a like I hear some people say it's a retcon, and for all I know, it could be. It still fits
Well,
in well enough. I just wish that they acknowledged the tailed beasts were a collective rather than just random spirits earlier on.
I think maybe he just didn't think about like the concepts by that point where he was just like,
Yeah, that
you
was
know,
a little bit of an example of information distribution that was handled a little bit less cohesively, but it still works well enough for me, and I think it's justified because I mean it still leads into one of the coolest plots of Naruto, so there is that.
I think if you just realize it's like, oh well, they have tails, so I might as well just go like,
Yeah, you might
you
as
know,
well, it's like and
I
that's
might
the
as
thing. It
well just
doesn't even feel like it's not even that big of a problem. It's one of my small gripes, but really one that I don't even think ruins the series or even the arc itself for this matter. But on the topic of gripes, since you did mention a few of yours, I got to mention a few of me gripes as well because as much as I do like Land of Waves, it ain't perfect, and there are.
Oh wait a minute, actually, there's just
Hmm?
I I just want to say that after you've done, I actually do have, because most of what I was talking about were more anime problems.
Mhm.
Like, I only actually have one issue with Land of Waves in terms of story, which I'll get into when we're
I have a couple
done.
gripes of my own about Land of Waves, the story. Now I've only seen the anime, so I can't speak for any of the manga slash novel, whatever adaptation material. But I do have a
Oh,
couple gripes with the anime adaptation. Now,
and
obviously, it's nothing
also,
big. I mean, I still put Land of Waves in the B tier of my rankings. Video coming soon. Don't worry, I'll do a tier ranking video at one
also
point.
like
Hmm?
I did complain about like. Also, keep in mind, like I would mention Sakura, but I already brought her up. So
And honestly, like, I'm kind of willing to accept Sakura being that way since they're in the setup phase. It could have been better. Could have been better. Not
yeah,
denying
I
that.
don't think she was bad in Land of Waves, especially not in the actual Land of Waves arc. Keep in mind, she literally gives them an explanation for chakra.
That and like honestly, like, like okay, I know this is gonna sound bad, but her not doing that much, she kind of doesn't really have any place to do that much, at least here, that is. So I'm okay with her being less present than Naruto and Sasuke and Kakashi and literally everyone else because, well, that's what the support role does. That's what healers do. They're not supposed to go into the front lines and get themselves killed because if you lose your healer, guess what? You're not recovering HP. That's video game logic right there for you.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Sorry, my
anyways.
laptop just turned off for a sec there.
Huh?
My laptop just turned off for a sec there.
Whoopsies! Laptop problems.
It keeps turning
Anyways.
itself off.
Anyways, okay, so now to get into a few of me gripes. Now, nothing of them ruined the arc outright, since as I said before, this arc is already placed in B tier, which is a pretty respectable placement for it. I'm not gonna lie, a few things I'll admit gone by just a little bit quickly. I feel like the whole backstory between the sailor guy and his child, it's really interesting for sure, and it makes Gato really hateable. But this kind of comes at the cost of Gato not really doing that much. I mean, Zabuza and Haku are meant to be the fighters, and the big, like they're meant to be the focus of this. But Gato is the one that hired them. They're supposed to show that, there's corruption and shady underdealings in Naruto, which, yes, shady and corruption things are another theme of Naruto. I mean, look at Danzo, look at the Akatsuki, look at Madara, look at Toby. I'm not gonna lie though, Gato is a little bit of a weaker showing of said corruption, and he
Oh
goes
yeah.
down kind of like it's awesome. It is awesome to see Zabuza give him the business. Don't get me wrong, he
Um,
absolutely deserved it. But Gato's is just uh, like when
I'm
Gato
gonna
feels
go
more at
off on
home with the Naruto filler villains like Tiger Mizuki or the Peddler's Escort, the Ninja Dropout, Gantetsu people, whatever. Like when Gato feels more at home there, it makes his presence feel not as crucial as Zabuza and Haku were, which is funny since again he's the one that hired them and acts basically as their boss, and you think he'd be a little more important than that.
Yeah, I'm gonna go off on him later.
I also am not gonna lie when I say Gato's plan was just stupid. Backstabbing Zabuza and Haku in the back. Like, this dude is basically a criminal boss with guns and swords and all that, and he's fighting people who got ninjutsu, ice needles, crystal mirrors, and all this stuff. Did he really think he was gonna pull a last second comeback, even if Zabuza and Haku were on the bridge of death? Like literally, like they were literally dying, and Gato still lost to them. Like that's pathetic.
Yeah.
Also, actually, speaking of which, there are a few other smaller things about this arc that I think not exactly big problems. Again, these are all minor nitpicks. I also think the villagers revolting against the thugs or whatever comes like just a little too late. I mean, literally by the time the villagers and the kid, have like their weapons, the crossbows, the pot on their heads, the battle's already over. So like it's
Yeah.
it was a little late for that. I appreciate you scaring off all the thugs, but Kakashi was probably gonna mop the floor with them anyways. Let's be real here.
Uh, yeah,
In
like,
fact, actually, that does bring me to one tiny gripe I gotta bring up.
go
Sasuke
on.
awakening his Sharingan. Like, okay, we know from, Kakashi, like, the Sharingan, is a thing in the series, but they never really, like, maybe it's intentional, but they didn't really go into the process or how awakening the Sharingan works. Now, do they explain it later on?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it was still a little sudden though.
That's a good point, actually. It could have been introduced at least.
And it's funny because like Naruto's nine-tailed partial transformation against the Haku, see that made sense because we knew the nine tails was a thing, even as early as episode one. Whereas Sasuke awakening Sharingan, like yes, we know the Uchiha are the progenitors of the Sharingan Eye. I just wish the actual conditions for awakening the power were stated or at the very least hinted at. I mean, like, yes, it does get explained later on. It felt like it would have been a little more convenient to explain it. And they had the perfect time to do that. I mean, remember the tree climbing training scene where Kakashi's talking about, like, chakra control and all that? Maybe, Sasuke could ask Kakashi about his Sharingan eye or whatever. Maybe Kakashi could explain, Sharingan has, like, specific conditions or whatever. They had the time to do that. Again, not a big gripe. Something I feel like they maybe could have explained, though.
Not gonna lie, that actually reminds me. I actually find the tree climbing part really funny for some reason.
It is kind of because you see, like, again, it's something as simple as mundane, something as basic as climbing a tree. Sakura gets it, and Sasuke and Naruto are like, "No, I will beat you," and it just becomes a massive contest. It's actually kind of
Well,
wholesome. Them sort of competing friendlily before the Chunin exams. There actually is something kind of endearing about Sasuke and Naruto's just younger days when they were just kind of competing at one another for the simplest of things. There's something kind of charming about that.
I will say what you want about Sakura. Like, say what you want, but she's not useless. Like, when people say she's useless, I'm just like, did we watch the same show?
Yeah, did you
Like,
see did you see her training under Tsunade? Did you see her fighting Sasori? Did you see her in the Fourth Shinobi World
yeah.
War? Like I know that Five Kage Summit definitely did Sakura dirty, but I'm not gonna lie, as a healer in the Fourth Shinobi World War, she definitely made up for that. At least
Oh
in
yeah,
my
but
eyes,
no.
anyways.
Let's just show the Sakura versus fight as if that's most of her screen time. I'm like, that is literally one out of like a few handful of instances where like she was a victim of like really bad plot armor, but like
And it's kind of sad too, because I feel like Sakura versus Ino, weak fight, but like, I mean, like, sure, does it show Sakura and Ino's like powers early on? Sure, but what really kills the fight for me isn't even the plot armor of the Cha and Sakura somehow pulling a victory. It's the fact that neither of them won. Like
well
that's kind of what annoyed me, that it ended in a draw.
well it's
It felt
also
like they got
kind of
cold feet there.
it's also kind of not believable at all when they say that Sakura, like, even I can tell, I'm like, come on, Sakura is not in any way equal to Ino's power by this point.
And not only that, but their friendship, Lily, they ended a friendship just because they happened to like slash have feelings for the same boy. Like, who does that? Who? I get it, these
Well,
are
again,
kids. I get it, these are kids, and kids might not make the most rational decisions. But what kid turns down friendship just because you happen to have feelings for the same person? And it's clear Sasuke does not reciprocate, at least not at this stage. So, like, why? Why?
reserve the rest of the discussion
Yeah,
for
that
Chunin
is
exam.
Chunin exams territory. And for the record, I do prefer Land of Waves over Chunin exams. But again, that's a different topic entirely.
My
Anyways, is
opinions
there
on
anything
that
else you
are
want to say before
very.
we end our talk on Land of Waves?
My opinions on that contest are very complicated, by the
I
way.
believe you. My feelings on Naruto as a whole are complicated. I mean, my feelings on just the fillers are complicated. Like, this is a
Right.
long series. It's
I'm
700
going.
episodes, including both part 1 and part 2. I'm not including the movies, but still.
Right. I might be a bit of surprise people when I say this, but I think that while okay, because I know a lot of people who deem Land of Waves to be like the best arc in the series, a masterpiece, and I just don't see it the same way because
It's like
okay,
in part
well,
1, if we're talking exclusively part 1, I can see why people would still hold it as their favorites. I can see that. But compared to Shippuden and all the fillers and movies and all that, Land of Waves, I don't think can stand the test of time in that regard.
well, I'm still to talk about my one problem with Land of Waves that holds it
Ah, yeah,
back.
sorry, go ahead. My bad.
I'm going to be a little more upfront, like not trying to talk down to anyone or anything. I'm just trying to give my confident perspective where I say that I think the world building of Land of Waves. I actually think it's weaker than in Chunin exams. I actually think
Yeah,
that
because it doesn't even
the
take
problem,
place in the land of in the village and in the leaves. We're talking about not even the same village.
like I was told recently, but Land of Waves, like the goal of the arc might be different from what I had in mind, but like even so, come on, like look, I can love an arc because of something, but still criticize elements of the arc in question. I'm like,
Exactly.
the Land of Waves, the problem with it is that it skims over the town. Like it completely skims over it. And then it's like suddenly Inari. By the way, I don't actually have an issue with the Inari section. I think that section is dope. I think that was
Yeah, I
really
think for what it does in this plot, it actually works really well.
I sorry, hold on. Like I legitimately
You
really
legitimately.
emotional. That made me really emotional. Like I felt really bad for the kid.
Honestly, the
And
music as well accompanying it pulled on my
yeah.
heartstrings. I'm not gonna lie. And
Yeah,
also, the way
and
they killed his father, they crucified him for everyone to see. Like, geez, that is brutal.
oh yeah, that was I cannot
Like, imagine
believe the
being a
first
kid and seeing that. Like, fuck. Like, I would
dude.
be traumatized if I was Inari too.
That's the first arc. Keep in mind.
Yeah, like that's gonna get some attention right there. And and okay, even though I criticized Gato earlier for how they ended him off, I will say the buildup was there. It did feel very personal. So, I will give Gato credit there. It's just that there's
Yeah.
better examples of
Um,
corruption and taking advantage of for certain characters in the series. I mean, Donzo, like, compared to
uh,
Donzo, Gato is not as. He doesn't have as big of a track record as Donzo, let's just say.
and you know what? Let me just say it right now. I don't care if the goals of Land of Waves aren't what I had in mind. Because, like, here's the thing. If you set up world building, I expect that to be like, what about the town of Land of Waves? Like, what about the town of the Ark? Like, is really all that meaningful in hindsight beyond just trivial, backstories and sad things that happen?
And
I'm
it's kind
like,
of sad too
Land
because
of
like the
Waves,
Land of Waves, it doesn't actually have a role in the longer narrative. Yes, with the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist, because Zabuza being a former one, as well as the Land of Water, Yagura, the Three Tails. There is world building there, but you're not gonna know that just on this arc alone.
like,
In
I'm
fact, it kind of took them a
sorry.
while to address the Land of Water again. So I will admit the world building is a little stilted, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like, I'm sorry, but it's just kind of a random town. Like, I didn't care about the town. Like, I cared about the stuff that some of the
That was
stuff that
going
went
on
on
in
in
the
the town,
moment.
but I don't care about the town itself. I mean, there's nothing special about it. I'm like all of the explanations. I'm like, it's literally the most,
It's
and
just,
like
it's just,
I don't
it's just
always
so convenient. Is the thing they're making it convenient for Naruto, Kakashi, Sasuke, and Sakura to go after Zabuza, Haku, and Gato. Like it really is just there to make the villains want to be stopped more, and that's a little too simple, if you ask me.
like it's just kind of a town that suffers from poverty. Like I don't know. I kind of expect a little more than what
Then
they're
just
setting up
selfish,
there.
greedy gangster monopolizes everything.
Like I'm sorry, but it's a bit off when they introduce a town and then they just ignore it. Isn't that like
Yeah.
a bit structurally out of place? Like I
Like
just can't
besides
help
the
but feel like
bridge maker Inari, like the other townsfolk, like I'm sorry, like I'm sorry that they're poor and all that, but like it doesn't really extend anything beyond Gato just monopolized everything, which is just it's
oh
too
yeah,
basic. It's too basic is the problem.
and
And I
that
get it,
leads
I
me
get it. It's the first
to
arc. They couldn't make it complicated, but with 19 episodes and the fact that the Land of Waves is literally something they're trying to focus on, like, oh, we're building this bridge, so like we can trade commerce and throw Gato off of his ring of monopolization. Like that's the kind of thing I didn't really pay too much mind to.
right.
Like,
So
and actually, funny enough, now that you mention this, since you
um,
mentioned world building, they didn't even build up the village hidden in the leaves or the land of fire in this arc. This arc is, it's so funny. You could honestly mistake the world just being the land of waves, and Naruto and crew are not from there. So yeah, they showed the land of waves before properly. That's not to say there wasn't some world building for the land of fire slash village hidden in the leaves, but like they only really they didn't even scratch the surface. I mean, we got the backstory of the Nine Tails in season one. We met the Hokage, the mission system, and all that, but we don't actually get like actual development to the lore and background of Land of into the the home village of Naruto until after Land of Waves. So it definitely feels like I don't know. It's weird. Not a big problem again, but something I will admit. When you mentioned world building, I did have to bring that up.
like if Land of Waves is such a masterpiece, when literally how is Gato like set up to be like, oh yes, I like I like the money, and then
And
it's
compared
like
to
you
other
see his
villains who
base
do
on it.
similar things, like Orochimaru wanting all the knowledge, or Danzo just, covering up everything, Gato's corruption feels shallow. It's just
Like
shallow greed, which is kind of
like
lame.
here's the thing: I've not seen anyone bring up Gato and go, "Oh yes, I'm a very huge fan of
Yeah,
Gato from
because everyone
Naruto." Like
talks
who
about
even
Haku and
remembers
Zabuza.
them?
He's one of the most overshadowed villains of all time.
Yeah,
He's overshadowed by Haku and Zabuza. How can anyone overlook that?
Yeah, and it's like, sure, Zabuza and Haku are amazing
They
villains that
are,
make the
yeah,
art
but you really think they would hammer
really
it home by making all the villains meaningful, which Gato kind of
yeah,
isn't.
yeah, but it's like at the same time, like I want the arc's contents to be as good as the villains. I'm like, because here's the thing: you can have amazing villains, but if the screen time that doesn't focus on the villains, which let's face it, there's quite a bit of it in Land of Waves that doesn't focus on the villains, then um, there's gonna be some room for improvement, let's say, and there's definitely a lot of room for improvement in Land of Waves, I would say. So it's like
Obviously.
structurally, I just think Land of Waves is an underdeveloped arc. I actually do think it is a great arc overall,
Yeah. I
but
mean, I put in
not
my B tier,
because
and obviously both of us we look at Land of Waves in a positive light. So any of these
but
critiques we're saying are just analyses or analysi.
yeah, but it's just the problem it's like I get the impression it's like, oh, I can't criticize this because
Because it's
the focus
iconic.
is
It's the first.
well,
Einkrad. Like,
it's because they bring up like Zabuza and Haku, but I'm like, fine, but
but
like
like
when you
that's not
set
all
up,
there is to the arc. There's more to the
yeah,
arc than just the good stuff everyone hypes up.
yeah, like you have to understand, right? It's like the arc literally sets up a town to ignore it. That's not me like ignoring goals that the arc does. No, that is literally just ignoring its own world building.
Yeah, and
Which
it's like in other times where they acknowledge stuff, sure, but it doesn't really go beyond surface level.
and I'm
It's
sorry,
like
but
they
no,
tell you the bare minimum about the village. And
I'm
that's
like,
yeah, it's like you think
I'm
for them
sorry,
making
but
such a big deal out of the village, they go just a little bit deeper.
I'm sorry, but no, I want more
You
in the
want more
town.
content. You want more
I,
content.
I, like, I'm sorry, but how can I be satisfied with Land of Waves as a location if there's not much meaningful in it that makes me fulfilled? So it's like the Land of Waves part of Land of Waves is just like it's just kind of like there to me. I'm just
And it's
like
funny
it's
because like they don't even
background.
actually reach the land of waves till about halfway. Because the first encounter with Zabuza in the woods or the lake or whatever goes between like episodes I think like 7 and 9 if I recall correctly. And by the end of episode 9, that's when they reach the boat or like the bridge or whatever the bridge maker's house. So like half the arc isn't even in the land of the waves itself. It's just getting there.
Yeah, and then that's like for like the entire climax, it's like you're literally just on the bridge.
Yeah, we don't even
Uh,
explore that much of the Land of Waves outside of the bridge. Now, obviously, the bridge is going to take up the majority of the fight scene. I get that. And we do
like
see a few shots of the village. Hell, even the flashbacks actually kind of help in that regard, showing off more of the village. But, like, I feel like I would like to see more than the bridge maker's house, a dock for the boat, and the bridge, which, funnily enough, the
you know what's
flashbacks
funny?
actually do give us, but still.
You can have a short arc and still give more to the location than this did. You can still bring more into it. If anything, I would have preferred that since there's some parts where I'm like, you know, you're focusing on this drama, but I'm like, I'll also like legitimately, I feel like I deserve an explanation to this town. I mean, this is the first town. You have to understand, like this is the first area they go
And you want to know what's
beyond the
really funny?
village.
You want to know what's really funny? The Star Village
Mhm.
in Star Guard arc. I think there was more to it, and even though and that arc was only 7 episodes long. Like I think the Star Village in the in Star Guard actually had more beyond just the Star. There was the corruption of the leader. There was the mother and their child. There was plenty of locations. Like there actually was a lot more to Star Guard than I think people give credit for. And so if Land of Waves, if I can compare Land of Waves to Star Guard, that shows there's room for improvement.
Yeah, but regardless, like the coming back to the reason why I love Land of Waves itself, it's like I just want to like say that it's like when the arc is as consistent as it is, it's like obviously I spoke about the things that could have expanded upon. And those are where most of my issues really come from in terms of the story. Um, so it's like as phenomenal as these villains are, they're the biggest reason why I'm like levitating more towards this than Chun exams. I'm still just kind of like, yeah, but you still underdeveloped your town. Your arc was literally named after, which pulls us back into being an 8 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, same for me. B tier, 8 out of 10. That's around the score range I
Yeah.
give it. Well, is there anything else you want to say before I conclude this recording?
Uh, I
Think you're good?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff I love about Land of Apes. A lot of really good writing. I was intrigued, and I think that's what matters. But you know, like again, I just think there's room for improvement. It is a little underdeveloped. Um,
That's fair. But you know what?
and-
Land of Waves did build a bridge to the rest of the series, and I think that's what Land of Waves was really trying to achieve. It wanted to hook viewers enough to keep them invested, to look forward to what's next, and to that, I think Land of Waves succeeded. I mean, it's a lot like how we stated in our Fullmetal Alchemist '03's Cornell arc, how it hooks you. It makes you want to see more, and Land of Waves did that. It made me want to see more. I kept going, and lo and behold, I was into Naruto, and I'm in the middle of the Fourth Shinobi World War, so evidently this first arc succeeded in giving me the incentive to keep going, thus building that bridge. At least more
yeah,
than the fucking Tenchi Bridge arc did. Fuck that arc. Oh
like
man, boy, I am gonna voice some opinions when we get to Tenchi Bridge because I'm gonna go on record and say it. I'm gonna go on record and just be completely honest. I think Tenchi Bridge is worse than Paradise Life on a Boat, and I actually do have a reasoning slash explanation written out, but that will come
no,
when that comes.
no, your reason has to be good. I mean, the bridge arc's pacing is like literally the worst thing ever.
Yeah, and the fact, and here's the thing, like, I'll give you just a very brief, I won't actually dive into my feelings here, but my thing is, while Tenchi Bridge has abysmal pacing and story relevance, it's just not that enjoyable to watch. There isn't a lot I would really look forward to or want to watch again. Whereas Paradise Life on a Boat, its placement is abysmal and it does not offer a lot of meaningful content. However, there are some sillier moments that are actually kind of decent. And with the arc, I think, intending to be a sillier sidetrack thing, anyways, it succeeds at being what it wants to be more than Tenchi Bridge did. Tenchi Bridge wanted to be super serious, and I couldn't take it seriously. Paradise Life on a Boat was really silly and goofy, and well, it did make me laugh here and there. So, subjectively, Paradise Life on a Boat did more for me than Tenchi Bridge. Now, does that make Paradise Life on a Boat placed anywhere outside of F tier? Not at all. Both of them are in F tier, but Paradise Life on a Boat is ever so slightly above Tenchi Bridge for that one tiny small fragmented reason alone.
Well, I mean, it's understandable since, well, even if I, by the off chance, disagreed, I think that the boat arc at least has more substantial content
Yeah, and at
throughout.
least you can justify it with it being filler and it's not meant to be taken seriously anyways. Where Tenchi Bridge, they're trying to make it so serious, and I just got bored.
Yeah, the only part in the boat arc where I drew the line was just like, I don't know, like, as much as I don't actually mind 1010, I found it kind of just, like, it didn't really land for me when he, like, what was it? You like thrown a wrench at like Naruto or something? And I was just like,
I forgot.
oh, okay.
I'm gonna
I
have to go
mean,
back and watch a couple episodes to jog my memory. Oh
uh,
God, no! I'm
I guess
revisiting the worst cruise ride I ever experienced. Ah!
just felt really awfully timed to me and that. I
They
do remember there were
literally,
some.
they literally pulled a Sakura slapstick routine, but with Ten and somehow made it worse.
Yeah, I remember there were definitely some good moments, though, but I'll get into that later. But I'm not actually done talking about Land of Waves, by the way.
Oh, okay. I was about to stop the recording. All right. Well, squeeze any last things you want to say because we are coming up a bit on the recording timer here.
Because I actually still need to cover some of the thoughts on the climax, because the climax is my favorite part of Land of Waves easily.
Obviously, I
Since
mean, it's
the
literally the
fight,
fight scene. Naruto is known for its fight scenes.
yeah, the fight is also one of my higher tier Naruto fights.
There's
Of
a
course,
lot of
well,
really good lines in that fight. I'm not even just talking about like moves and that. There's just some really good like just good dialogue. Like Kakashi's all like, "You have to have a future, Zabuza, to which you don't." Like that is sick.
uh,
Coming from
see when
Kakashi,
Kik-
that is sick.
dude, see when Kakashi uses the freaking electricity, it
Lightning
looks,
Blade or Chidori, they never
yeah,
consistently
yeah,
named
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Like when you see him use Lightning Blade that one time, it's
Like
like,
you
and
know,
then
that's gonna hit something.
yeah, but it's like there's something about the way that looks with the background in Land of Waves
You
where
know, the
like,
mist, Kakashi's eye glowing, like
yeah,
it looks fucking cool. And this is like
yeah,
early Naruto before they really, roughed out the edges of the animation, and it still looks awesome.
yeah. There's some also. One thing I have to like, here's the thing. See, when I said I had problems with the way Land of Waves was adapted, I
Yeah,
also think it made many enhancements, like the directing. I think that the camera in Land of Waves is really,
it's really
really good.
creative.
Yeah, very expressive stuff. Like in that latter
Like the
half.
scene where like Zabuza's like gets disarmed of his blade and it just screeches across the bridge. Like that actually, like, and the camera swoops up with the blade. Like that looks pretty cool.
And also like the atmosphere. The music choices are very well timed too, I've noticed.
Yeah, and I also really like
Um,
the shot where like you see the dying Zabuza and Haku lying on the bridge, and it just slowly pans up as the snow falls. Like that alone shows they had a really good idea of what they wanted to do with the visual prowess.
yeah.
Visual prowess sounds like I'm talking about Genjutsu here.
So it's like, here's how I describe it. I'd rate the first half of Land of Waves, like an 8, whereas like see when you get around to like I'd say around the Inari bit, which is where I think it really starts getting like top tier stuff. That I would give more of a 9 or maybe even a 10 in some instances. But like, but like
just
when I get
because
to that
it's
point,
just because it
like,
has a high score like that doesn't mean there aren't things. I mean, I can give a series a 10 out of 10, but still have things
well,
to critique.
here's the thing. When I have a second half that doesn't like live up to the what my higher number was, well, it's going to be the lower number because I can't ignore the fact that the first half was like, you know, underutilized or whatever.
Yep, that makes
So like
sense.
I yeah, so like that should give you enough reasoning in my scoring to
That
give
makes
you an
sense.
idea of how
I think that's
how
believable,
I
and
rate it.
honestly, nothing you've said has necessarily felt like it was ill explained or like honestly, a lot of the points you've made out have made total sense. Some of them I don't fully agree with. I mean, I can see where you're coming from, and that's sort of the thing. That's one of the reasons why I really enjoy talking slash doing recordings with you, is because even when we disagree on something, we do it politely, like gentlemen.
I will say one thing,
Yeah.
and that is that Zab is a, and I know it sounds like I'm just like I'm going, oh yes, Zaba's a good this, Zaba's a good that, but I really do think that he is one of the best Naruto villains overall.
And
Like,
honestly, I'm
he-
even more surprised they brought him and Haku back for the Fourth Shinobi World War. It was kind of interesting to see that even after dying, he still actually retained his sense of honor to Kakashi. He's like, Kakashi, you have to put me out of my
well,
misery.
Actually, there is one thing more thing I wanted to talk about with Zabuza.
Oh, okay.
That's that. Well, I think that his arc is just the right amount of time. Like it's like as soon as it feels like they did everything they could have with him
Yeah, it's like
with
they actually gave him a
what we
really
have.
complete arc. Like he
Yeah,
honestly, and this is just a theoretical, even if they didn't bring him back in the fourth Shinobi World War, I would have been a-okay with him just ending at the end of Land of Waves, because his arc feels really complete.
yeah. Like it's just he kind of gets more. Like throughout the arc, it's like more
It's
and
like
more you get the
you just
sense.
get this impression from him when you start out. He just seems like a really gruff and stoic guy. Again, cutthroat mercenary. But then when you get to the end of the arc, you realize, maybe he was a little more human than he was letting on.
Yeah, they like freaking. It's like you can literally see it in his eyes. It's like
It's like not even his
you,
eyes. Even during the battle, like you could just pick up on very subtle cues that Zabuza
yeah,
wasn't nearly as like he was very bloodthirsty in the first battle, obviously. But in this battle, he seemed
yeah,
almost less bloodthirsty. Again, they did a surprisingly good job humanizing him, and over a pretty compressed amount of time. Like I'm impressed. They did a really good job humanizing this guy.
yeah. You can see him like kind of like balance out his like jutsus to the point where it's like
Yeah,
he
he
kind of just
learned from experience like a ninja would.
yeah, and then it gets to the point where it's like you can tell that he's getting more inconsiderate as the battle gets on because
Yeah, I
he's
mean, like
like
literally, when Haku protects him, Zabuza he tried. You can see in Zabuza he's trying to dismiss the fact that Haku died right in front of him, but in his eyes, you can just tell this dude is holding back his actual feelings, and that's the
yeah,
thing I like.
for
That's the thing I
sure.
like. They kept Zabuza's feelings
Yeah.
mysterious enough, but when they did reveal his true feelings, it doesn't feel like an asshole.
Yeah, because it's like see when you see someone that they're they're almost like a bully in a way, but then you realize that it's not. Sometimes that face is just something they put up,
Looks
to
can be deceiving.
try to to
It's a
protect
mask.
themselves.
It's a
Like,
mask to
yeah,
hide who they truly are and how they really feel. Looks can be
it's
deceiving.
because they don't want to be seen as like weak or inferior. So when you do find out about them, and then you realize that you know the
You
way they
realize
turned
the
out,
truth.
makes sense,
And you want to know
even
what's really funny
despite
that you
all.
mentioned this? You want to know what's really funny how you mentioned this? You want to know what character does the same thing but absolutely fails?
Well,
Asuka Langley fucking Soryu from Evangelion.
yeah, Asuka
Screw
sucks.
her so much. Literally, okay,
Agreed.
look, I might not like Shinji either, but at least Shinji has
Oh yeah,
understandable motives for being depressed. Asuka, she just acts like a bitch, and like they don't even redeem it. Like, why? Like, I
yeah.
can see way more humanity in Zabuza, a cutthroat mercenary, versus Asuka, a teenage Ava pilot. Like, that should show how my feelings
Mm,
are.
where even were the thoughtful where even was the thoughtful writing in Asuka?
It's so dumb. Like, oh yeah, you lost your mother, but by the time the audience has revealed this, she's like out of the battle. Her mind snaps due to one of the angel
Yes,
bites or
so
something. Like they didn't even go anywhere with it. It's so
yes,
dumb.
so it's like
Asuka is one of the most
why
she is the worst tsundere character I have ever seen.
should
Evangelion is one of the biggest pieces of trash I have
hold
ever
on,
seen. Yeah.
why should I care about her Why should I
You're
care about
not.
what goes on
You're
in her
not
life?
supposed
Like,
to. But apparently, there's like some like deep symbolism, or like, oh, but like Asuka isn't so bad. No, fuck
no.
that. Yes, she is. She literally is. The entire world of
Okay.
Evangelion is being attacked by alien creatures, and the Eva pilots need to team up, and Asuka just refuses to be a team player. Bitch, what the fuck? This is the apocalypse!
That's
Oh,
well written.
my god. Like, if you guys want more thoughts, watch my Evangelion review. I roast this fucking piece of garbage anime to hell and back there.
For the record, I'm not as negative as Quint is on it. However, I don't like it whatsoever. Like, that was, in my opinion, if anything, that show was literally 26 episodes, was it? Of
Yep,
just,
26. Two
you
movies,
wanna know
the
what the
rebuild
problem is?
films, game. It's like, it's so dumb. This series needs to die, and it needs to
It
die
was
now. Evangelion
beyond,
is that bad.
it was beyond unfocused, couldn't even make its mind up on the writing. Like, it was,
The,
it
the
was,
dumbest thing, the dumbest thing is people act like it's deeper than it actually is, and it's funny because like
yeah,
I actually did research it. I know some people could say, "Oh, but you didn't research all the symbolism and all that." And okay, I didn't on my when I reviewed it, but when I did after my review, I did look up a lot of the stuff. What does this mean? What does this mean? And did I feel any better about the series after the fact? Of course, I didn't.
you
The
know,
fact I had
Quinn,
to go to a Bible to translate what this angel symbolized or whatever, like, nothing changed. It just made me more
you know,
mad that the
Quinn,
series itself did not explain it.
that reminds me exactly of the One Piece Skypiea problem.
Oh no!
Like,
No!
literally,
Not One Piece!
literally, like, One Piece, like, the Skypiea, like, honestly, it's like they're like, well, you have to understand, right? The pyramid is like, the pyramid, Oda is like
It's
God.
overrated for
No,
no good reason. Evangelion, Skype, all of One Piece, like, there's only so far you can overrate a series before it gives me the incentive to bash on it.
Skypiea sucked too, but that's okay. That's like the point.
That's a topic for
But
another time. Alrighty,
but
well, we're gonna have to stop the recording pretty soon here. I only got about 3 minutes left of recording
just
space. So is there
one
anything
more
else you want to
thing.
squeeze in before we end?
Right. Okay. One more thing.
Okay.
Uh, yeah. Well, join us next time when we cover. Uh,
Well, we haven't
ha-
decided what we're gonna cover next, have we?
well, no, I'm talking exclusively for when we come back to Naruto. Not
Ah,
that we're doing that next, but when we come back.
gotcha.
Next time when we do Naruto, it'll be. I think it'll
Shooting
be the.
exams.
Well, I think we'll do the first half of Chunin exams, like
Yeah, we might as
Forested Death.
honestly, bro, we might as well just divide Chunin exams and Konoha Crush, since like it's really funny. Chunin exams is like 40 episodes, but you could
Like,
honestly divide Chunin exams and Konoha Crush. Other people do that. But you could also divide Chunin exams even further into Forest of Death and the tournaments. So like
I think what we'll do is we'll do like the first half will be like
the first half will be like the
preliminary.
written exam and Forest of Death. The second half would be like the tournament, I'm guessing.
Whoa, 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 whoa!
Hmm?
Let me finish.
I'm sorry, I'm excited.
Okay, first half will be written exams, Forest of Death, uh, yeah, the preliminaries, and then the second half will be final exams in Konoha Crush.
Okay.
Preliminaries, uh,
We could probably cram that in
we
with Forest of Death because a lot of the fights are fairly short.
we might split it a little. It depends on how we feel at the time. All right.
Yeah, it depends. And for
Um,
all we know, we might even just mash the preliminaries and finals. We'll have to decide on the actual structure of it when we get around to it. But I am looking forward to it because there's going to be a lot to talk about there.
yes.
Alrighty
Many.
then, y'all. This was the next broadcast of Amestris Audio. We're gonna be signing off for now. I'm Quinn866. Have a good one, and Cam Man.
Katashiki.
I just calling you by your nickname, bro. It's just a habit of mine.
Call me Cam, man.
Cam Man. I don't know.
Cool.
I've called him that since our first recording. It's just stuck since then.
Cam, man. My camera to you.
If we had a recording studio, you'd absolutely be manning the camera. You'd try and pull some Land of Wave shots as we're doing this.
Also,
Alrighty,
One
y'all.
Wave had a good atmosphere.
Alrighty, y'all. That brings this recording to an end.